all went through this in 2020. Um, let's see, the next time you guys will be up, you're competing in 2027. So that means in 2034, your grants will be ending. We'll see what happens back then. So hopefully we won't have to do this a third time. So, um, so everybody should have received an email with a checklist of the different documentation that we need from you to help us in our continuation award process. Uh, it has a number of items. We do have some grantees who are consolidated into a 477 plan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk us through that checklist that I emailed to you a couple of days ago, starting from the official letter and working our way down. When we get to the carryover section, those grantees who are consolidated into a 477 plan, this will not uh, 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 be for you. You don't have to follow through with the stuff starting at the carryover section. We will work with the Bureau of Indian Affairs on anything additional we may need from you from 477, but the carryover part will not apply to you. So if anybody has any questions, you can put it in the chat. I also do not mind being interrupted. So if you have a question that you think you're going to forget before the end of after we get through everything, please interrupt me, because the older I get, the more I really appreciate the fact that I can get my question out while I have it fresh in my head rather than waiting and thinking I forgot something about it. So, all right, so let us get into the meat of this. The first item that we looked at was the official tribal letter. Now, this is a formal certification letter from the tribe, and what we're looking for is an assurance from the tribe that they not only have the capacity, but they have the ability and the desire to continue the AIVRS program into the 6th year using the amount of funds that the tribe was awarded in their 5th year for the 6th, and following through the same goals, objectives, and activities that were described for the 5th year of the grant. So what we asking in that letter, there's no template. All we're asking for from the tribe is an assurance that certifies that they are ready, willing, and able, basically, to continue for a 6th year. However the tribe chooses to convey that is fine with us, as long as we receive that. Now, we did receive some concern regarding the timeline and the deadlines that we have regarding the budget. Any questions about the official tribal letter before we work into the budget?
Nothing in the chat
Hey,
box.
August, this is Michelle. Can you hear me?
Hey, Michelle, great to hear from you.
You too. With regard to the official tribal letter, is that something we could just put all of that information in the form, or do you actually need an official tribal letter? Because I know you were fixing to go into the timeline, and that's going to really be pushing us to be able to get that all the way through. But if we could just do it on that form, then we can do that and just address all of your questions on that 514 form.
Oh, on the checklist that I sent you? Yeah, if the tribe wants to, it's a Word document. So if they want to type in, we do need a signature. We do need to make sure that came from a certifying representative, authorized, somebody who's authorized to engage in a 6th year.
Okay.
Usually that's a tribal chair or somebody from the tribe that submitted the grant application itself.
August.
Okay.
Can I give you my 2 cents? Give them my 2 cents.
Please do.
So some people were asking for templates, and I see Neil put something in the chat about that. I pulled up a couple examples, and it really wasn't anything I needed to share because it basically was just one sentence that you have the capacity to continue the goals and objectives of the grant. It was basically two sentences on letterhead. So it's very simple, just a couple of sentences, and we need that letter. That is the letter that will allow us to obligate funding versus the budget, which we really need to. August will talk about it. If there's some extra time needed for that, that would be okay. But it's the assurances that everybody really should focus on for now.
Connie, can you
Well,
repeat that, please?
Corinne?
Or
Yes,
Kareem, I mean, sorry.
that's okay. Hi, Lyle.
Oh, we're changing her name to
part.
Connie now. She's
That's
going to
okay.
forever be Connie in the office.
It's fine. I've been called other things too. So yes, there's not really a template. It's just a couple of sentences that they can provide assurances that you have the capacity to continue the grant. That is what we need right away. We'd like everything by May 8th, if possible, but the assurances, if you had to prioritize that letter would be priority. And then the budget, of course, is to determine about the last year's continuation award. So we know it's asking a lot. We know about the layers you have to go through. But we don't really have a template, just a tribal letter with a couple sentences.
Yeah, so Michelle, I guess that answers your question that rather than using the checklist we send you, I think we do need something on letterhead from the tribe, completing what Corinne just described. Looks like we have a question
Teresa.
from Teresa.
Yeah, we got Teresa's hand raised, and then I've got some in the chat box. So let me know when
Okay.
you're ready.
Sure. Teresa, go ahead.
Thank you, August. So the person who signed off on the grant is myself, and then the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer. Is that who the letter needs to come from, or can it come from my supervisor?
It needs to come from somebody within the tribe who is authorized to submit grant applications. Whoever that was designated to in your original grant application, whoever signed it and submitted it is the person who probably needs to sign the letter.
Then that is finance. Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yep. Wayne, do you
Yeah.
want to read the questions in the chat box?
Yeah, we got a question. Is there a template letter that's been answered? Who is the letter to be addressed to?
You can submit them to me, August Martin.
Okay, and then if tribal leadership signs before final Federal Register publication, is that acceptable? Or should certification be interpreted as a contingent upon final notice?
It's a good question. I think it should be signed as if we're going to receive the final. Does that answer the question?
I like that terminology, contingent upon final approval. That's a very good question.
Yes. So be submitted. Yeah, that's good language.
Okay, and then we have, do we need a tribal letter or a tribal resolution?
Tribal letter. I know resolutions take forever to get through. I served on the tribal council of my people, and boy, did we ever take forever to get resolutions through. So, yeah, tribal letter, it will be faster. That should be sufficient.
Okay, and then we have, can our tribal consortium president sign the letter? Or does that have to be our executive committee chairperson?
Oh, whichever one was responsible for submitting the grant application or authorizing the consortium to a person authorized to act on behalf of the consortium. Whichever one that might be, I don't know.
Okay, and that's all the questions up to date.
All right. Let's move on to the budget. Wayne, do you have the 524 available that you could put on screen?
We got one more
If
question
not-
that popped in. Authorized represented on grant or question mark?
Say again? What? Authorized representative or on grant or question mark. Yeah, it's usually the authorized representative on the grant. If they have left, it's been 5 years. So if they've left and somebody's taken their place, then the person who's taken their place should sign. So now we're going to get into the budget section, which is the 524 form. And what we're asking for is a year 6 budget. We're asking you to complete a single year. As you'll see, this is years 1 through 7. It'd be much easier if, and forgive me if I come forward, my old eyes can't see small print anymore. If you go into year 6, you can copy your budget into year 6 column, which will be personnel fringe benefit, and it's going to look identical to what you have for year 5. Now, if your tribe received was reduced in year 5 for some reason, then we're going to go based off of what was approved in your grant application. So the budget in your approved grant application, the 524 form that looks like this, you'll look at year 5 and you'll copy it over to year 6. Now we will request also, is this the 524B or the 524?
I think it's
in any
just a
case,
524. Yeah.
okay. So we
We
are also
wondered about
asking,
that too. Sorry.
yeah, it looks at the 524B almost. So we're also asking for the copy of your most current indirect cost rate agreement. You'll fill out everything like you did for your grant application. You're going to include the percentage. If your indirect cost rate is the de minimis, you can put up to 15% in accordance to 2 CFR 200. But complete this form. We're looking at year 6. It's going to be identical to year 5. And then we'll also need a budget narrative. And that will be, I think, the next line item. Yeah, budget narrative. It's going to detail what you've included in the 524 budget. Now you're doing both the federal and non-federal. So the non-federal is the matching requirement. If you have, again, if you need a refresher on how to calculate that matching requirement, we can definitely do that for you. You just contact your project officer, whether it's Joy, Adrian, or Ronica, or myself, and we can walk through how to calculate the non-federal portion. And again, you're going to put it in column 6. Now, if you don't have it itemized by personnel, fringe, travel, equipment, and you just want to do it a lump sum, then just put it all in line item 8, other. That should be fine. If you do have it itemized, that's fine as well. Otherwise, however you put it on here, just make sure that the calculations are correct. Do we have any questions on the budget? Now, the budget narrative obviously should follow what you have in the 524 form. Explain to us how funds are allocated, what they're allocated for, just like you did in your grant application. Now, if you have any changes you want to make to the budget for your 6th year, as far as allocations are concerned, if you want to allocate more to consumer service dollars, if you want to take money from travel and put it in equipment or whatever, please have a conversation with your program officer first. Myself, Joy, Ronica, or Adrian. Whoever your program officer is, before you make any modifications to your grant, please have a conversation with your program officer first. Okay, let's open it up for questions.
We've got a couple questions in the chat box.
Okay.
And then I've got a question also.
Okay.
So I'll say mine first and then I'll get to the chat box. What about projects that are experiencing large available balances or excessive carryover? How is that being addressed?
We're going to get that into the next session under carryover.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I was just too anxious.
Yeah.
Neil had asked, is it okay to attach correspondence for budget mods completed through project officers? Adrian said she wouldn't mind seeing it this way.
Okay. Adrian answered that.
And then Corinne just posted the Avers 250n@ed.gov email address.
Oh, good. Yes. I was going to get to that last, but yes. So everything we're asking is going to be sent specifically to that email address, and we will get to that here in a little bit. All right. So if there's no other, any other questions about the budget, let's get into carryover. The way we're handling carryover for this final year, if you have large available balances and you do not feel like you'll be able to spend the entire amount of your continuation award plus your carryover balance, then what we recommend you do is determine how much you'll be able to use, and we can voluntarily reduce the amount of your award so that the amount of your carryover plus the amount of your continuation equals the amount that you'll need for the 6th year. Now, if you've had carryover, large carryover for 2 consecutive years, what we've determined as a team here at RSA is that we will most likely reduce your award by the amount of your carryover automatically. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to put you in a position where you're having a very large available balance at the end of your 6th year and returning those monies to Treasury. Because as we've stated in the past, we have to take prior performance as a part of our consideration when grant competitions conclude. When we're looking at funding new grants, we have to take prior performance into consideration. And if your tribe is returning to $100, $200, $300,000 back to Treasury, we have to take that into consideration. So one of the big reasons why we want to request that you look at your carryovers, we don't want to put you in a position where you're hurting yourself in the future. So we want to make sure that any reductions are done based on fiscal responsibility and a realistic outlook of how much money you're going to spend in year 6. So for carryover, we are asking for the total amount that you've encumbered through September 30, 2026. This is going to include all your salaried fringe. It's going to include any travel. It's going to include any equipment. It's going to include any and all obligations that are in your consumer services line item for any of your participants. What have you obligated in your IPEs? How much is that going to be? And any other line items. So through September 30, 2026, we're asking for the amount that you anticipate that will be encumbered by that date. Then we're going to ask you to estimate of that amount whether or not you wish to carry over any of that amount into the 6th year. We will need a formal justification that details the specific intended use of those carryover funds. We also want an assurance that you'll be able to use those funds, carryover funds, plus the continuation award, and have it all spent by September 30, 2027. And then we also want a copy of your most current indirect cost rate agreement. And if it's expiring at the end of this year, then we might need something from the tribe that states that they will be in negotiation with the cognizant agency, and a new indirect cost rate agreement will be in effect by the time the new 6th year starts.
So, August, with regard to the encumbrances, if we are positive that we're going to expend everything that we have been granted, is it okay to just say we believe we will encumber or expend 100% by September 30th?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
However,
Go ahead.
we'll need to know specifically on what. One of the reasons that August is talking about carryover from 2 years is because in our system, we can look to see who still hasn't spent funds from 2024, meaning they haven't even started on the 25 funds. So in the past, we've asked for encumbrances, and again, you think you might spend it, but then a staff member leaves. That's probably the best example we have of when you're down on staff or somebody leaves unexpectedly, which helps to create this large available balance. So we do need to know specifically what it is that it's encumbered. We did have a question from Rayla. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. At what point does RSA consider carryover large enough that a voluntary reduction should seriously be considered?
Now, if you have, now we're in the, what quarter? We're in the 3rd quarter, right? So if you have 80% or more of your available balance still in your account today, as of today in the 3rd quarter, then that would be considered a large available balance. Now, if you have, now obviously we're going based on proportions here because some grantees are operating at 290,000 and we have other grants operating at 1.4 million. So it's going to be obviously based off of some proportion here, but for a baseline, if your available balance by September 30 is more than, I'd say, 35% of what you were awarded for this budget period, that would be considered an excessive carryover or a large carryover balance. 35% is a pretty large sum, no matter how much you're awarded. So use 35% kind of as a baseline to determine whether or not you want to volunteer to reduce your own award. Now, for those who have 2 years or more of excessive or large available balances and large carryovers over those last 2 years, your program officer will talk to you about those, and will work with you on determining how much your continuation award will be reduced. So that'll be on a case-by-case basis based off of your prior performance as far as drawdowns. Now, I do want to acknowledge one thing before we move forward. The team recognizes, us at RSA, we do recognize that your programs are spending money, that you're using it for day-to-day operations to meet the unique needs of your tribal members with disabilities. So we know that you're spending money. The problem we are running into on our side is when we see large available balances in G5, it appears to those who don't know your program that you're not spending money, which is why we're always asking, please, please, please draw down on a regular basis to cover even the basics of your monthly expenditures, such as salary and fringe. That's why we are asking you, that's why we're looking at all these available balances. And we recognize that you're spending money. But to the untrained eye and those who don't know this program, all they're looking at are numbers. They're looking in G5. They're seeing these large available balances. We have some balances that are still at 100% that have not drawn down for this year. To congressmen who look at this data, they're seeing tribes that are basically being interpreted as not needing the monies, even though we know you're spending it. So that's why we need tribes to really to to draw down on a regular basis, and that's how we're looking at it. So in any case, do we have any questions in the chat box, or do we have any hands raised?
Yeah, we got a question from Neil. In June last year, we were asked about carryover. No costs were submitted. Will we be asked again and later in June of this year?
We're asking you now. We're asking for your carryover. We're asking you to project between now and September 30th, 2026. How much of your current balance are you going to spend? How much are you going to have left over? And how much, if you do have monies left over, how much will you carry over into the next budget period, which is year 6? And then we'll work on whether or not, if that amount seems to be a large amount, then we'll probably work with you on reducing the continuation award.
And then
Another hand went up.
Adrian yelled at all of us really loud.
Uh-oh.
We need to see it spent down, drawn down in G5. Please draw down regularly. And then Susie, we will carry over, have a separate budget narrative as we have in the past, detailing what we will be spending our funding
Yes.
on and such additional staffing.
Yes, if you have carryover that you're wishing to spend in the 6th year on top of your continuation award, we do need a plan on how you're going to spend those monies and an assurance that all monies, your carryover and your continuation award, will be spent by September 30th, 2027.
So August, this is Susie. Hello, everybody.
That's it for now. Oh, so
On the 5.4, do we put that inclusion of the carryover in a separate item on a separate line? Or we're just using 5-year, pasting it over to 5.6 for this form, and then we'll have that second budget narrative?
Good question.
What do you want to
What
see?
I would recommend is I would say do the year 6 and 524 form as if you're copying from 5th to 6th year. And then in the budget narrative is where you'll notate to us how much you're carrying over and for what purpose those funds will be used for. If you're going to allocate them to any specific line items, you can put it as part of the narrative in that line item that this amount of the carryover is being allocated for this purpose. Does that make sense? I'd like to see a thumbs up from Susie. Okay, so that is carryover. And then what I want to say last is at the bottom of your checklist, we gave you 2 important considerations. One, year 6 continuation awards will be based strictly on the approved funding level for year 5. The goals and objectives from year 5 approved grant application will remain in effect for year 6. So however many you propose to serve in place in year 5 will be the amount you're proposing to serve in place in year 6. We're not looking for any increases whatsoever. Now, if you have any goals and objectives in year 5 that you've already accomplished and you don't think will be necessary in year 6, then you can make that notation in your budget narrative stating basically that activity that was described for year 5 has already been accomplished and is unnecessary. Now, if you have let's say you have a disability awareness event that you want to participate and or host in that you had in year 5. If you want to offer that same disability awareness event in year 6, you can definitely include that as a part of year 6. If there's some activity that's just not replicable, that you can't replicate into another year, then obviously don't put that in year 6. You can put in a budget narrative that activity, although it was approved in year 5, was already accomplished and not necessary for year 6.
yeah, we got some questions in the chat box here.
Okay.
There's a question on if we were one of the tribes that were only funded $1 for the fifth year?
You can definitely put your amount that you were approved for year 5. Go into your approved grant application into the 524 form that you submitted as a part of your approved grant application. The amount that you have in that for year 5 can go into year 6. Now, if you're awarded a $1 for year 5 and you still have a large available balance going into year 6, then your program officer will probably work with you on reducing your awards so you're not overburdened with monies that you can't spend.
Then there's another question. I heard you say it would be great to receive this by May 8th, but you know how that is really quick to get through many travel processes. Do you have a further out hard deadline to receive this information?
So what we've decided here is what we need the most before anything else is that letter. We need that letter from the tribe stating that you have the capacity, the ability, and the desire to continue to provide vocational rehabilitation services in year 6. That's first and foremost. If we can get that by May 8th, we can then work with you on a later date for the budget stuff, because we know that's going to take a little while. But that letter is the most important thing, because as we work through our continuation process here at RSA, we need something in writing certifying that the tribe has the capacity and the ability to continue to work in a year 6. So that's the most important thing. Now, if you can't meet that deadline, please let your program officer know and give us a realistic date that you'll be able to get that letter from your tribe, and we can work with you on that due date. But to the extent possible, please try to get it to us by May 8th so we can use that as part of our continuation process. Michelle, looked like you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's going to be the part that's hardest to get, just because that's the part that we have to send through the process to get the certifying officer to sign and all. And so that's, just a tribal process. It's not that it can't be done, but just that quick turnaround is going to be tough. But if we see that we're not going to get it back in time, then we'll definitely reach out and work with you on that. And I appreciate you guys being understanding about that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michelle. Yes, we are. Yeah, we don't want to put any undue burden on you. We just want to make sure that we get you your money and that we can get into our process here. We have any other questions?
Yeah.
Comments?
What about the cost of living increase?
Now, if your tribe, if the cost of living allowance increases, and your tribe overall for all tribal programs has as a part of their policy to increase salaries, fringe, what have you, then you can make that, you can put that into your budget. Just let your program officer know that you're doing that. And what we'll also need from you is where you're reallocating funds from to cover that increase. So if you have to take money from equipment or from supplies or from travel or wherever, just let us know where you're reallocating funds from to cover the cost of that increase for cost of living. The one area, and everybody knows this, and I know you all know this, I'm just going to reiterate it. The one line item we will probably not approve monies coming out of is consumer service dollars. Consumer service dollars are typically untouchable. We don't want you to touch that. The only time you can modify consumer service dollars is if you're adding monies to it. Otherwise, we really frown upon taking any monies away from providing services because that's the purpose of this program. So.
Then we got another question. So we just use the same tribal budget?
Yes.
Then what about 477 TVRs on budget carryover?
Budget carryover for 477 budget, we're not going to look at carryover at all. Uh, your program officer will work with you individually on what's necessary, what we do need from the tribe. And we did send this to BIA already. What we do need from the tribe is that letter stating that the tribe does have the capacity and the ability and the desire to continue to provide services. We
Well
do
as a
need,
budget.
yes, and we do need the budget as well. Copying budget year 5 to year 6, and that'll be it. Budget narrative. Corrine, do we need a budget narrative for 477?
Yes, I believe we did ask that in that checklist to them.
Yep, yeah. So we'll need a budget narrative as well for 477. For those of you who are 477, don't worry about the carryover um, and work with your program officer. Well, work with who's on your grant award notification as your ed program contact. So finally, going
So
to my
there's
list
one more
here.
question here. Official letter needs to be sent by May 8th or sooner. And then we have a dated timeline from RSA next 3 to 6 weeks for all the other documents.
There's no timeline. We haven't set really a deadline. If you need more time for the budget narrative, let your program officer know. We'll work with you. It's that letter that's the most important thing that we need as soon as possible.
And then I
But
see
we're not giving you a 2, 3, or 4 week timeline. If you can get it to us by May 8th, that would be great. If not, then let us know and we'll work with you on how long it'll take to get us that information.
and I see that Lyle's on Kyle. Where'd that come from? I see that Lyle's unmuted. So we got Connie and Kyle now.
He doesn't even look like Kyle. What the heck?
I think that's Corrine doing that to me. So, well, I just everything that's been shared, this is all recorded. So for those that joined late, we have access to this recording, this meeting, correct?
Yes.
And that's
Yes,
through
you
where?
Avertag. It'll be placed on the Avertag website. Usually it's a YouTube clip, I think.
We will have
Alright.
it placed under RSA resources, Lyle, on our main page where we have resources. You pull that drop down menu down, it'll be under RSA resources.
So now, last but not least, every document that you're going to send to us, you're going to send it to me. And you're going to send it to this email address. It's also in that checklist I gave you, but I'm going to say it again. It's going to be sent to AIVRS250N as in November at ed.gov. That's AIVRS N as in November 250 at ed.gov. Oh wait, I'm sorry, that's not right. Is that right? It's 250N. I'm sorry. Now that now I said that twice wrong. Let me say it to you right twice. It's AIVRS 250N as in November at ed.gov. AIVRS 250N as in November at ed.gov.
And it's in the chat box right now.
Good. You're going to send all those documents to me, addressed to me at that email address. And hopefully it'll get to us by May 8th. Again, if you need more time, talk to your program officer and we will work with you on it.
In August, I just wanted to explain why we need it sooner this year.
Sure.
First of all, the good news is the last I looked this morning, there are only 12 in the 250N cohort that have what we classify as true labs at 70%. So that's the good news. People are spending. So that's good to see. But our deadline, our internal deadline, as my team knows, is June 1 to determine reductions. And everything is moved up. It's like every time we do things right, they want to move the date up earlier to be due. So it is due sooner rather than later for us to prepare all that we need to prepare to get the money out the door. So the one thing that I put in the chat was that we don't just randomly reduce awards. We have a discussion with you. We want to make sure you're 100% on board, understand why. Hopefully you're in agreement. But we discuss the numbers and the history and the patterns and that sort of thing. So last year there weren't many, maybe 4 or 5, I don't remember, but they will have those discussions with you as well. But like I said, the sooner the better, because we are under the crunch too. We're all under the crunch, unfortunately, this time. But we do want to get the money out the door. So that's why we are putting the pressure on. And hopefully you can work with your finance office to get that in. So thank you very much.
All
I'm
right.
sorry, with regard to that, since it is in effect flat funding us for another year, if there are tribes like us that are going to spend all of that and could use extra, can we ask and send you information to try to increase our funding maybe after that June 1st deadline?
What we can do, what we can receive from you is a request for a supplement to your award. Anybody, any grant who has a proven track record history of using all their funds is welcome to submit a request for supplemental funding. Now, whether or not we have that money to provide you, will be determined at a later date, and we will work with you, Michelle. If we do have the funds available for supplemental funding, then we would definitely let you know. But if, you can include that as a separate request from what we're doing here, and let us know how much money you're going to need additional. You're going to justify it, the reason for how you're going to spend it, all that stuff. So yeah, you're welcome to request a supplement if your tribe is struggling. I know we have one grantee who's currently in a order of selection because they just have so many people they're serving, and they're meeting the numbers every year. So we understand that that's a possibility. So yes, you can submit a request for a supplement, but we'll have to make that funding determination at a later date.
Okay, me and James will be working on that. Not James.
Okay, so we got a couple more. Can COLA go in carryover?
Typically it does not. I mean, if you want to include that as one of the areas that carryover is going to be spent on, then yes. In your budget narrative, in the 524, you're going to list all the line items as it is in year 5 in your approved grant application. But in the budget narrative, you can notate how much money you're allocating, and then from carryover funds, you will cover the cost of living. Now, this is going to be obviously going to be a completely different story when you reapply for your next grant. But for purposes of this, yes, go ahead and include it as a separate explanation in your budget narrative.
And then the last one is, what is the mailing address for our cover letter?
And that's what I've been trying to type in. August Martin, do we want to say OSERS, U.S. Department of Education?
Yes.
Yeah,
400 Maryland Avenue.
I think I'm 4A175. Is that what I am?
Yeah.
OSERS, U.S. Department.
So you guys aren't in the education building anymore, right?
It
No, we're
is.
in the education building. Yeah.
We're still here. But you won't be,
Yeah.
hopefully everything will be emailed, right?
Yes, email would be the best. If you can scan and email that to us, that would be better than sending it by mail. I'll tell you why. When we get mail, this has been implemented for years, since 9/11 really. They irradiate any correspondence received through the mail. So by the time we're opening up your letter, it's been heated up so much that your paper gets crinkly and crumbly and
And
sometimes falls apart. So it's better if you just scan it and email
yeah,
it to
no,
us.
we do not do snail. Very rarely are we doing that these days. If we have to, we do. But
Scan it and send it. It's just that when we get it to our authorized official, they want a
yeah,
address. On there. They want an address on there.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
makes sense.
Well, thank you everybody for your time. Again, we're very optimistic on the final waivers extensions being published. We're continuing to receive comments in regulations.gov. We check it on a daily basis. Once May 4th comes and comment time closes, we will be given a certain amount of time to respond to comments, put together a final waivers and extensions notice to publish in the Federal Register. And then once we've accomplished that, then we can move to the continuation awards and make sure that everybody gets their funding. So it's going to be a little bit long process. We're hoping to get the whole final waivers extensions published not too long after the closing date. It does have to go through approval process, and you all know how that goes. So that's kind of what the next couple of months are going to look for us. Also, as you found in public notices that are on the ed.gov website, the Department of Education will be moving to a different location by the end of August. That may interfere with some of the activities that we're taking on here at Ed. That's one of the big reasons why we wanted to extend the grants, because we knew that we were going to be moving. Where the AIVRS team is moving is still uncertain. We don't know if we're going to be moving to the new building that they've described in the public notice that was published, or if we're going to be going over to the Department of Interior. That's still uncertain. So, but we do know that by the end of August, we should be moving to a new location. And we will hopefully have all of this continuation stuff done before we move. If not, then this whole process may take us into September, and that does not look like fun. So we're going to do our best to get all of this done before the move. But in any case, thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions about any of this, contact your program officer, myself, Ronica Marable, Joy Harris, or Adrian Rodriguez. And if you don't like our answer, well, we'll work with you on that. So
Don't,
we'll try to cover it in more honey.
if you don't like their answer, don't call Avertag.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Avertech is included on this because they are also going to be extended for a 6th year if we publish a final waivers. So they are subject to all of this as well. They're having to give us, all the information that we just asked from you. So Avertech is in the whole midst of this as well. So I appreciate also the AIVRS listserv. I know you all communicate with each other, hold each other up, and help each other. I can't tell you how happy that makes my heart. So I really appreciate all of you helping each other. So with that, I will let you all go. Thank you for your time. And if you have questions, give us a call.